Welcome to Guy Code, a podcast dedicated to imparting dad wisdom to my son, with your host, Koji Steven Sakai, and friends.
Welcome. This is Koji, and this is episode number 46. I wanted to impart all of my wisdom, of course, but of course, my son already thinks he knows more than me. So instead of trying to tell him now and having it go in one ear and out the other ear, I decided to record them here in the hopes that maybe, just maybe in the future, when he's ready, he'll listen to my advice and not make the same stupid mistakes I made when I was his age. I also bring on guests to impart their wisdom as well, and I have no doubt that their guests will be better, or my guest advice will be better than mine. So this week I brought on actor Kelvin Han Yee. Kelvin, how are you?
Hey, I'm really good, Koji. I really want to thank you for having me, because this is an opportunity that really, in a way, I've been preparing my whole life for. Of course, when I was younger, I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have a son, and had really kind of mentally prepared myself for that, because I was well fathered. I think my father sat me down and had talks with me and imparted wisdom to me. And I always wanted to carry that on and pass that on. My life took different turns. My wife and I made choices in our life to not have children. So, that did not happen for me. But this is a tremendous opportunity for me, because I always thought that I might be a good father, because it was something that I valued in my own father, and in saying that, I also want to tell you that you're just an awesome father, and from my perspective, from what I see, you're just doing an amazing job, raising your kid. And so, I value that, and I respect that, and it is an important thing. And thank you for letting me come in here and maybe be a little bit of a mentor or an uncle, in that sort of Asian community sense. I grew up with uncles that weren't necessarily part of my family, but right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All those guys, yeah. all the old timers in J-Town, man, all the old timers in Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
They schooled you, or if you were lucky, they schooled you, and along the way, you got mentorship from older dudes, man, from guys like you said, because this is what it is. I'm not saying that I'm a genius, that I don't have all the answers in life, but I tell you what, I've made the mistakes that you haven't made yet. There's guys out there that have fucked up already and done some things. And that's the great thing about life and wisdom, is that you can get it from other people and other experience if you study. If you study other people and wisdom and writing and the wisdom that people have put down for you, because people have.
I've heard one of my friends was on the show. He said the best people to get advice from are the people that fucked up the most, because they've experienced.
I saw that interview. And I want to. And that is one of the greatest lessons in life. Yeah. And I want to get into that a little bit. Another thing that I'd like to do during this is I'd like to read a couple of things from very good writers. I'd like to read a piece of Shakespeare for you, and I'd like to read a piece of Rudyard Kipling for you, because both of these writers have something to say to sons, or the general son, the next generation.
Before we get into the advice, Kelvin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so that everyone knows who you are?
About me?
Yes.
Nobody wants to know who.
I want to know about you.
I ain't nobody. I'm an actor, and I've been doing this for 35, almost 40 years. I'm almost 60 years old, son. So I'm old school. I'm an old timer. I'm OG, and I've made some mistakes. I've spent most of that time as an actor. Acting kind of saved me. I was an at-risk youth, you might say. I got kicked out of high school. I made some mistakes, right?
Yeah.
I got kicked out of high school. I never went to college. I kind of ran away from home and joined the acting circus. It was the only thing that I figured that I seemed to be able to do, and I liked doing it, and I liked being involved in telling stories, because I think that storytelling is the most important thing that human beings do. Okay. And maybe second to that is math, because math takes us to the moon, right? Math builds buildings and stuff, right? And cars and shit like that. But storytelling is who we are. Storytelling is how we remind ourselves of what it is to be a human being. And storytelling takes on different forms. It's not just plays and theater and films, but music is storytelling, and all of art is storytelling, and painting pictures and drawing pictures, and it's all the human story, and all of art participates in that, and more on that a little bit later. But I was Ed Hastings at the ACT, the American Conservatory Theater. I had been kicked out of high school. I was working as a bouncer in a strip club in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, which is the worst neighborhood. It was the 42nd Street of San Francisco, right? It's a nasty neighborhood. And I basically worked for the mob, the Jewish mob. I was like 19, 20, 21 years old, right? Ed Hastings brought me into his office, and he had his eye on me before, because I had taken some classes at ACT, and I had been, and he had seen a little bit of my acting. I had been involved in the Asian American Theater Company in San Francisco a little bit, but he said, "What are you doing with your life?" And I said, "I'm working at the strip club down the street, throwing guys through the window." And he said, "No, you shouldn't be doing that. You're you have talent, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a job here. I'm going to give you a job as a spear carrier. I'm going to put you on stage. You're going to have to join the union, right? Actors Equity, right? So you're going to be a professional, right? So you're going to have 8-9 shows a week. So you're going to have to quit working at the strip club." All right. Ed Hastings said this to me. He was one of the guys that started the Asian American Theater Company in San Francisco. Yeah. He had an eye out for saving some kid, and apparently I was that kid. And so he said, so I'm going to give you a little stipend. You get a little pay, right? So you can live in your shitty apartment or whatever. Right? But you got to quit that job at the strip club. My girlfriend, I had a girlfriend working there. It was a mess, and if I'd stayed down that path, I would have been dead by now, man.
Yeah.
I would have been dead by now. All right. So he says, "I'm going to put you on stage 8-9 times a week. You're going to quit that job. But during the daytime, when you got nothing else to do, I want you to go to all of these," because they have a conservatory, a school. They give master's degrees for acting, right? Oh, I didn't know that, right? And he said, "I want you to go to any one of these teachers, any class that you want to take." And you say, "Ed said I could come in and just audit this class, and I'm in the company now, I'm the third spear carrier to the left, And I stayed there for 6 years.
Wow. And
I got the finest classical theater education that money could buy, and it was given to me for free like that. And so I'm grateful for that. And then I got cast in the first American film to be to be shot in the People's Republic of China right after it opened. That was called the Great Wall. And then I did a lot of Asian American theater when I was coming up, because there weren't that many opportunities for a guy like me. I had starred in this film in China, made in China. It was an American film made in China, co-production. But I went down to LA, and I got, you can look this up online. In 1980, 88, 89, something like that. I got called, I was in line to play Beta on Star Trek Next Generation.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah. And I met with Ray, with everybody. Yeah. And that did not happen for me.
Yeah.
And there was very little opportunity after that. Somebody wanted to write a television show for me, but that sort of fell through and all that. So I embarked in an acting career, a lot of it on stage, and then about 10 years ago, I made a transition to film and television, and so I'm not a famous actor.
Yeah.
I ain't rich, but I've been able to do a lot of important work, I think, and I've been able to create portrayals of Asian American people that look like me, that are authentic and real, and who don't demean us, like so many of the representations have been in the past in the media. So that's my life, and so yeah, that's who I am. And,
well, let's get into it. I'd love to start hearing your advice. What? Tell me your first piece of advice.
Okay. First piece of advice. Let me just start with what I did this morning. Okay. All right. My life. Okay. I fucking made my bed. Excuse me, but I might drop some.
That's fine.
Bombs here. Your son probably won't watch this for a few years anyway.
Oh no, he listens to me. I curse like a sailor. So
good. Listen, kid. There are choices. And that's one of the things that this conversation is all about. There are choices in life, so you can choose to use words, and sometimes certain words are more effective than other words, and sometimes some words are humorous or whatever. But they are choices anyway. So this morning, this is what I did. Okay, first thing I did was I made my bed, and I just want to say that my advice to you is learn how to make your bed every morning, because it is a small task. It's a small, easy thing to do. But let me tell you something. When you make your bed first thing in the morning, you've accomplished something already. Maybe before you even wash your face and put something in your mouth to eat, you've already accomplished something, right? Yeah. You've already knocked one thing off that list that you needed to do that day, right? That you have to do. And the next thing that I might want to talk about is the word metaphor, because making your bed is a metaphor. It's symbolic, right? It's a little thing, but if you want to conquer the world, if you want to change the world, if you want to get through the big things in life, right? You gotta tackle the little things first. And the big things are made up of little things chained together, making up a big thing. So you tackle the little things first, and a little simple thing like making your bed, man. All right. And it'll give you a sense of satisfaction. All right. And it'll set you up for your day, right? You've already accomplished something, man. You're already up. You're already up one. All right. Right. And I'll tell you something else, man. You're going to go out there in life, and life is going to beat you up. Life is hard. You're going to go outside your house, and you're going to hustle, and you're going to try to make it, right?
Yeah.
And it isn't always going to be easy. You're going to come home, but you know what you're going to come home to? The bed that you made, right?
Yeah.
The bed that you made, and that will give you comfort, and that will set you up for your next day. It will so that you will get sleep, and you will come home to a bed that is ordered. It's not chaos, like outside in the world, right? You have control of this little space that you sleep in 6 hours a night, 8 hours a night, right? You have control over that. Guess what, man? You made your fucking bed. All right. And then there's this saying, it's a metaphor, right? There's this saying that maybe you've heard before. You made your bed, now sleep in it. Or some people say you make the bed that you sleep in, or you sleep in the bed that you make. Well, it's a metaphor. It's symbolic, right? It's words about something that shows you truth about something else, right? What it means is everything you do in life, has consequences that you have to live with, and that you have to, right? And something like making your bed is something that you have control over, and that you can give yourself sleep and comfort, and so it's a tremendous thing. And so that, I guess that leads me into.
Well, wait, let me ask you this. Did you make your bed this morning? Did you make your bed this morning?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yes.
You do this every day?
Oh, hell yes. Sometimes I fail.
Okay.
Because sometimes I wake up and I have a hangover. Or sometimes I wake up next to my wife and maybe we stay in bed a little while. So sometimes I fail. We all fail, right? But yes, this morning I made my bed, and it gave me a great sense of satisfaction. And it reminded me that it was something that I could really share with a young person. Simple tasks, but master them, and you will be able to tackle the big tasks, the big ones, man. You'll be able to do right? Yeah. But you start with those little things, man. Things
you can control, right?
Ultimately. Absolutely. But those link up to the bigger things, man. All right. Like that other guest said, the path to success is paved with failure, with mistakes, with stumbles, right? The blood from your knees is on those, is on the pavement, is on the path to success, right? This is how life is. I wanted to get into, because I mentioned, that you make your bed that you sleep in, and that it's a metaphor. One of the things that one of the most valuable things that I did in my life was, this is about 15 years ago. I was part of the founding of an organization called Each One Reach One organization.org. You can look it up on the internet. But we go into lockdown facilities, prisons, specifically juvenile prisons, juvenile halls, right? Juvenile prisons. Many people don't realize that there are juvenile prisons in the United States, but yes, there are. And there's juveniles in there that have done heinous things, and are in there for some terrible circumstances. So we would go in there and we would teach them how to write a one-act play. All right. And then we bring in some professional actors at the end of a 2-week writing session where we would work one-on-one, each one reach one, and we would mentor these kids. But here's the thing: the facilities, the prisons, they wouldn't let us talk about the things that the kids would really needed to talk about, which was the specific people, the people that they love, their homies, their gang. Yeah. They couldn't talk about their gang. They couldn't name their gang. They couldn't name the street they live on, right? Because it's against the rules, right? So we taught them this word called metaphor, right? Okay, so you want to write about this gang, right? Well, maybe it's a metaphor. Maybe instead of talking about, 16th Street Crip or whatever, set you are, maybe it's a pack of dogs, right? At the junkyard or something like that, right? But you can talk about the real, you can talk about your truth, but just put it into a symbol, put it into a different thing. All right. It's a bed of flowers.
Yeah.
All right. But you bring in conflict, you bring in all the truth of your life, you bring in, you write a story around that, but you use metaphor. The reason why I bring that up is because I think that metaphor is one of the most important ideas, concepts in life, because because human beings think in terms of symbolism and metaphor, and everything that we write, every piece of art that's out there is a metaphor for something.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it all is. And I think that you can be very, very young and you can get that. I said before that storytelling is the most important thing that human beings do. Well, every story, the French say that there are only 7 stories.
Yeah.
Right? Basic storylines, right? Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, right? Death, birth, right? There's 7 basic stories, right? I'll go one step further. There's one story.
What's the one story?
It's this human story, right? It's the story of what we view as our reality, us, yeah. Right? There's one story, and we're all telling it at the same time. We're all telling it. I think every religion is telling that same story, and if you can figure out symbolism, it will just unlock this key for everything that you are seeing, everything that you read, every story that you hear, everything is a metaphor. And when you start to see the world, the universe like that, then you're an artist. Then you can start to produce metaphors. Yeah. Because it's not hard. It's not hard at all. But when you can see the world like that, I posted something on my Facebook page the other day, and it was something like, it's important to listen to the music in your heart. We all have a music, that our truth, our authenticity, we all have a music, emotions in our heart. And when you sing a song, when you make that into a song, well, that's art. That's what it is. That's what it is, man. And I think that when you can start to see metaphor, you can start to figure out truth. You can see how all of the human experience connects, and you can see the truth that is through all of human experience, the essential stuff. You can get that, and it's not hard to get. And if you don't understand that things are symbolic, and you just see it as black and white, or it's this, it is this, and it's not that, then you're stuck, and you aren't really seeing the truth of reality.
Yeah.
I think. And so I don't know, that's about metaphor. And you know, and I just said something about the music that you hear in your heart. That's a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
The heart, right? The music you hear in your heart. I've just said something in a metaphor, right? You know, one of the greatest things that I've learned in my life also is that you are what you think, that your thoughts become things, that our whole life, we as human beings, we're nothing but some water and some chemicals and some cells and a fucking bunch of emotions. We experience our reality through emotion. We are emotional beings.
Yeah.
It is our soul. It's our soul. And, you know, I want to tell young people that you don't necessarily have control over your emotions, but you can choose. You have choices in emotions. And like I say, you are what you think. What you think about most in your life during your day is what your life becomes. And you have a choice. You have a choice about what you want to think about all day. You want to think about
Girls or drugs.
Yes. Or drugs, or getting over on people, or getting power, or getting right, or ego, man. Or right. Well, what are you thinking about all day? Getting those likes on Facebook?
Yeah.
You can make a choice.
Well, this is interesting because right now we're going through my dog is passing away. He's really old.
I am so sorry. My next door neighbor's dog has to be put down tomorrow. It's tearing me up.
He's a really important person to our family. But one of the things that we just had a teleconference with a vet that deals with euthanasia, and one of the things she told me that was really powerful was that she said, you know, or I asked her because she said, well, you could put him on medication, and you know, I said, well, what will they think about that? And the doctor said, dogs don't have hope like us. Like dogs don't think about medicine will make me feel better. They just think about what's happening right now. And humans are
they're not really seeing the future and stuff like that.
Whereas humans are the only one, if I give you medication, you have hope that it's going to make you feel better, which will make you either get sicker or better, right? But I thought that was really interesting because, you know, we're really going through
That's pretty complex.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty complex.
To think about that. Yeah. Because we're like, you know, because I don't want my dog to suffer, but at the same time, like, I don't want to give him hope. And then, because that hope is worse than the suffering in a lot of times for a lot of people. But so what you're saying is really meaningful to me. I'm finding that. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
no, don't be sorry. I agree, and I feel you. Losing a dog, losing a pet is I think in a lot of ways it's harder than losing a person. And I've lost people.
Yeah.
I've lost all the people that I love the most. I just lost a cousin of mine to COVID. She was a COVID nurse. She was on the front lines dealing with COVID people, you know, with the disease, with the virus, and it got her, and she just passed, and she leaves behind a son alone, who has nobody else right now. And it sucks. Yeah, it sucks.
I agree with you. I mean, my dog, just even thinking about my dog is worse than even my mom passing away, which was a couple years ago, or, you know, in a lot of ways it's just been, it's really hard, because
a dog's love is so pure, and it's so, without any attachment of anything else. It's such a pure love that they give to you. It's such a pure relationship that it really hurts to lose that.
Yeah.
It really does. My dog, he died maybe 4 years ago now. But boy, it still hurts just as much. A word about loss, because there is loss in this world. And my mother passed away when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Way too early. And an old friend of hers, this old gay man who lived with his mother, and he was an old man, and his mother even older. And he said to me, don't let anybody tell you that it gets better or it gets easier, because it doesn't. And, grief is forever, because love itself is boundless, and grief is the expression of love. And if love is without bounds, which it is, and if love is forever, which it is, then why wouldn't grief be? And that is an acceptance that I think that is part of life, that somewhere in your life you have to accept that there is loss, and that loss doesn't come back, real loss, and that you will lose people and things and that you love, and that there will be grief. But that you can be grateful for grief, because it is an expression of your love, of the love that continues. It is the flip side of that coin, right? And so,
well, you said that metaphor is one of the human things. I think loss, grief is one of the most human things. I mean, we're the only creature that knows that we're going to die.
Yup.
We're the only one that knows. And somehow we have to keep living, even though, and everyone around us will die at some point, and sooner than later.
And then that brings in that word that you said, hope. Hope. And things like faith and hope.
Because you can't live your life like thinking you're going to die every second, or else there's no life. You're just
and those feelings, hope, courage, fortitude. You can choose these. You can choose.
The one thing I always tell my son is that there's worse things than death.
Yes.
Being a coward is worse than death. Being there's much worse things than dying. I mean, even if I don't want him to die, obviously, but there's a worse thing than that, right?
Worse than dying is not being fully human. Is not taking advantage of this thing, this gift that we are given to by, I don't know what, God, whatever, right? This gift, and not to exploit it to its fullest, and not to live life and and not to be fully human. It's a crime, man. It's a sin. It's a sin, right? It's a sin. And one more thing to go along with loss. There's a quote that I really love, and it's from Deadwood, the TV show. Right? I don't know if you ever watched that.
I've never watched it, but I'd love to hear this.
Really? Okay. You should watch it, brother, because I think it's American Shakespeare. David Milch, I think, is one of the greatest writers on television. Wordsmiths. I mean, there's other writers that do other things, but his way of playing with words and making poetry out of words is amazing. And there's a character named Al Swearingen in Deadwood, and he said this. He said he gives this advice to somebody. He says, "Pain or damage don't end the world, or despair, or fucking beatings. The world ends when you're dead. Until then, you've got more punishment in store. Stand it like a man and give some back." And I don't know, that's a cornerstone in my life. And I love that language because it's so rough and cowboy and right. But it's Shakespeare and it's poetic at the same time. And I love writing like that. And I love it that, that really, it really forms a real cornerstone of how I view my life. You know what? Life ain't fair. News to you, son. Life ain't fair. It's not gonna be fair. It's not gonna be.
Yeah.
There's more pain in store. Make some choices. Stand up.
I
it's
love
not,
that.
Absolutely, man. It's not the number of times you get knocked down. And believe me, I'm Kelvin Han Yee. I've been knocked down a lot. Right. I go to auditions every day. You know what my percentage is? It's not that much.
Yeah.
10, 20%.
Which is pretty good, actually.
Well, okay, but hey, you go to that 100 auditions.
Yeah.
You go to that 100 auditions, and then you get that couple of jobs, right? You get knocked down a lot. So my life has been all about dealing with failure and knockdowns. It ain't the number of times you get knocked down. It's the number of times you pick your fucking ass back up.
Yeah.
Right? Life is going to, yes.
One of my favorite motivational speakers that me and my son listen to, and one of the things he always says, which resonates with what you're saying, is that a champion is not a person who keeps winning, because the person who keeps winning, everybody can keep going when you're winning, but you should only call a champion when they get beaten once, and then they come back and win.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a real champion to come back. Whereas if you're just winning all the time, then of course anybody could do that. Losers could be champions if you never lose. But
right.
It takes you to get. That's why one of the things that one of the really pivotal moments in my son's jiu-jitsu career was I noticed him fighting like kids that he could beat. And I said, stop fighting those kids because you could beat them. You need to fight the kids.
Not learning anything.
Yeah, you need to fight the kids that you can't beat, who are bigger than you, stronger than you, done it longer than you. And you might lose, which is fine, but you're going to get better. And and that's life too, right? You're going to have to accept losses in order to.
Absolutely. That's my favorite thing to do in jiu-jitsu, in rolls. I'll walk up to the biggest guy in class, the biggest, strongest guy. Why? That's the experience I need to get. I need to get that experience of 250, 270 pounds crushing me. Yeah, because that's what I'm going to learn from. I ain't going to learn anything from some
white belt.
Yeah, right. I'm teaching him.
Yeah.
Right. No, I want to mix it up with the guy that's going to sit on me, that's going to crush me. I want to get crushed because in life, what are you going to come across? What's going to give you problems in life? It's that big monster is going to give you the problems in life. So you want to practice dealing with that,
Yeah. Well, that's just like, like even for women, it's like those incels, those guys who are obsessed with women who are like, they get really angry at women. I always think it's because they're so focused on one, or they got rejected once and they stopped.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you just gotta, it's like our business. You just keep asking and somebody will say yes at some point, maybe, hopefully, but you have to, and then if it's not, it's probably something with you that you have to change. Right. And you have to get
just
better.
show up for it.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
show up for it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's 99% of it, right?
Yeah.
Show up for it and show up on time. And you might get it. If you don't show up for it, you'll never get it.
Yeah.
It'll never happen.
And when I teach writing, oh, sorry.
Right.
When I teach writing, I teach people all the time. I tell people all the time that, they think that I'm at a point in my writing where I get every job. I'm like, no, I get rejected most of the time, right? I still get rejected all the time, and that's my career. But I might get rejected less than I used to in the beginning of my career, but I still get rejected.
Yeah, just because somebody sees, oh, that's Koji, I'll read it. Yeah. At least I'll read it. Right. Yeah.
But I'll still get rejected. But that they think that automatically I get this agent, I'm a CA, all of a sudden my career is set. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You still have to hustle. You're still working. I'm still writing all the time.
And you're only as good as your last.
Yeah, exactly.
Your last one, right? Right.
Yeah.
We live in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Right. This moment is the one that's happening, not yesterday, not tomorrow. It's this one right here. And this is the one that you have control over.
Yeah.
This is the moment you have control. This is the time to make choices. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Right now. This is the time that you have, that you are living. This moment right now. It just left us. It's gone now. Right?
It also goes back to your idea of the bed, making the bed in the morning. It's like you can't control what's going to happen to you that day, but you can control what you can control, and you take care of that.
Control what you can control.
You take care of that business, right? That you can.
Yeah, and you took care of that shit. And you know what? And you're gonna come home, and you don't have to lie in a rumple bed that's all messed up that looks like chaos.
Well, I always think about if you bring a girl home and the bed's all messy, that's embarrassing. If you made it in the beginning, you don't have that problem.
Exactly. Yeah. At a certain point in your life, son, you're gonna get that message, and then you're gonna make your bed all the time, and you're gonna make sure those sheets are clean.
Yeah.
All the time, because you don't get lucky on those nasty sheets, man. You don't get lucky then.
Yeah.
Maybe your son's a little too young to hear this, but maybe someday he'll get it. He understands. He knows what's up.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, when we run in the morning, because we run every morning, and I always tell him, look, your friends aren't even up yet. Look, by the time we're done, we've done 3 miles. You're the only one we've worked out. Well, we could scratch working out the rest of the day, because we just did more than what your friends have done, and they're not even up yet. Right. And so by the time you get home, you're starting your
Absolutely.
day. Absolutely.
And he's so lucky. He's so lucky because he's getting into that habit already, right? He's young, and so these habits are going to stay with him, and it's going to be like, if he doesn't get up and run, he's not going to feel right. If he doesn't get up and do these things, he's not going to feel right.
Exactly.
But guess what? Doing these little tasks, doing these things, it makes you feel right. That's how you. Right? When I get depressed and like that, which I do, I battle depression. I start to get task oriented, man. You start to do so that, and hopefully you can get so involved in something, so focused in something that it pushes all of that other crap out, right? There's no room for anything else. And sometimes that has to be something like working out super, super hard, right? Just really working so that all of that other stuff goes away, or something like jujitsu that takes so much focus that when you're in that role, there ain't nothing else.
Yeah. That's
you ain't got time to be depressed.
That's what I was talking about jujitsu.
When you're fighting 270 pounds. Yeah, you right.
Before jujitsu, I'm angry or I'm sad or something's happening. But then the moment
that's a waste of energy.
But then the moment
it's
I
a waste.
The moment I stopped jujitsu, I'm like, what was I angry about? What was I sad about? Because I have not thought about it for a second because if I do, you're right. Like if I think about how sad I am, I'm just about to get crushed. I'm about to tap out because these kids are going to get me, right? These people are going to get me on the roll. So incidentally, what's your belt? I'm sure you're better than me, but
no. I'm only a blue belt.
Okay. We're blue.
I got my blue belt. Well, I'm sure you're better than I am. No, I haven't been rolling for for about a year now because of the COVID, and I have stepped back from that. My gym's still open. It's Fight Club over there.
Yeah, my
but
son's still rolling.
yeah, well, that's good, and I think that everything in life is a calculated risk.
Yeah. Well, I tell my wife that I'm more likely to get sick sitting in the gym watching him than he's going to get sick like rolling with some other kid.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. Yeah. It's somebody's mom that's going to,
get me sick.
Because the kids don't seem to be too.
I think the transmission rate for kids under in the elementary is pretty small. It's like middle school and high school it gets caught. Once you get to middle school, I think it starts getting the transmission rates get a lot higher and higher.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
that's what the doctors are saying. So that's what I'm hearing. So I don't know.
What other advice do you have? Do you have any other advice? I'd love your advice. Is wonderful. This is great.
I thought that I would run out of things to say, so I was going to read a couple of poems, but I don't know. We've said a whole lot of it already.
I will say one thing about your the people who are bigger than me in jiu-jitsu. I mean, I remember fighting this 300-pound dude, and he was just big, and it just frustrated. It kept frustrating me because he was just pressure tapping me as opposed to real tap, and so I had to.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And I remember kept telling my wife,
he's just putting weight on you.
He's just sitting on top of me, not because he's better than me. And I remember just being getting more and more upset, but I'd seek him out all the time because I was like, because you're gonna
figure it out. You want to figure it out.
Yeah, like he's not better.
Yeah, how do you figure it out? Yeah,
he's just
just weighs more.
Enormous. Yeah, and I can't even get my leg around him, right?
but jiu-jitsu, what the truth of jiu-jitsu is that smaller can overcome larger.
Yeah.
That is a basic premise of what we do. So there's a way to figure it out, but you just have to figure it out. It's chess. You're just right. Yeah. Dealing with weight is it's tough. And it's the reason why I gravitate towards that, because I'm not the biggest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Often I don't get into fights. I've been in a few, but in the street or whatever, more than likely I'm gonna run across a guy that's bigger than me. So I want that weight, to feel it, to know what it feels like and to deal with it.
Yeah.
God, one of the things is just with dealing with weight is just patience, right? And getting yourself in a safe place where you can breathe, right? Because they're sitting on your chest or whatever. Yeah. But you've got to create a little bit of space so that you can breathe and just to wait, because a big guy, he'll wear himself out, man.
Yeah, especially if they don't know.
Right? Yeah. Especially if they don't know what they're doing, right? Just wait. As an older guy, that's how, when I got back into the gym and I started doing jiu-jitsu, I went in as a 57-year-old to jiu-jitsu, right? So that's really old. And I realized, I'm an older guy. I don't have the same I'm not the same physical specimen I was when I was younger. Yeah. And I'm going to have to learn how to fight in a different way. And that was one of the reasons why I went back into the lab, is to learn how to learn how to work with what I've got right now, which is an older body. I can't do a lot of the things that the younger guys can do, but I've got more life experience.
Yeah.
And that's something. And you can bring life experience into jiu-jitsu and vice versa, because it's metaphor.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Right? So one of the things that I've really valued in jiu-jitsu training is learning how to be patient, right? And even I've done a little Muay Thai as well, but even when you're striking, there's a safe place, right? There's a safe place. There's a guard place. There's a safe place, and you can wait. You can wait. You don't have to be in a hurry.
Yeah.
You don't have to, especially if you're an older guy. Wait for the other person to make the mistake. Wait 100 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? You ever heard of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu 100-second rule?
Yeah.
Right? Give that other guy 100 seconds. Now let's see. Now let's fight.
Yeah.
I'll give you 100 seconds, man. I'm just gonna kick back. I'll give you 100 seconds.
Well, most people don't even realize
now
how
it's
hard.
on.
Most people don't even realize how hard the 100 or 3-minute roll is. Like,
It's
they
forever.
don't. They've never even been in that situation.
They've
where,
never been.
you know,
They've
like-
never been 3 minutes with anybody. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
That's why fighting with the new white belts, the people that come in are the worst because they're just all frantic. But then you could just wait. I usually just wait them out and then
Wait.
just wait till they get tired and then I can do whatever
Yeah.
I want. But that's always the most dangerous people to work with because they're just like so frenetic.
Yes, right. And they'll flail and they'll catch your nose or something. Yeah, no, always, right? They'll hurt you.
But you're right. I mean, I think there's a lot. I mean, like in size, one of the stories for my son is that he was first grade. There was a bully in his school who was just bullying all the girls and boys and stuff. And he came to my son's academy, and he wanted to spar with my son because my son was not as big as him. And then my son like 8 consecutive times basically brought him down, put him in a rear naked choke or some choke, and then the kid taps, and because he's scared, he taps really early. And at the end of practice, I was like, "This is the kid that everyone's afraid of. Like, this is the kid that everyone like. This is the kid's a joke. Like, like the moment you put him close to a choke, he's out. Like he can't handle it. He's never been in a fight. The only reason he's been able to bully kids is because A, the other kids are too nice to want to fight back, but B, they just never been in a situation where they had to defend themselves, and now this kid's coming threatening them. And I'm like, you don't have to worry about these kinds of kids. These kids are jokes. I was like, you just took him in 2 seconds. Like it wasn't even a situation, And a lot of times it's confidence anyway, right? It's just
Absolutely
just being, like using your words. Like I remember I was at the Great Wolf Lodge. I don't know if you've ever been to the Great Wolf Lodge, but it's like it's like Raging Waters for kids near Disneyland. But I was there,
right.
and this like a really large obese guy was like he wanted to fight me about something stupid, and I was like, yeah, we could fight. I'll fight you right now, but I'll kick the shit out of you in front of your kids. And and he could just tell because he thought he was picking on me because I'm like half his size. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of you. Like I fought people your size before. I'm not worried. And then you could just tell like after he said it, he stepped back and he like took his kids and walked away. I was like, yeah, like I told my son, I was like, it's a joke. Like this guy's a joke. Like he threatened me because he thought I'm Asian, I'm small, and I'm gonna back down. But I'm like, I'm not gonna get in a fight because we're in an amusement park. But like I'm not looking for a fight. But if he's threatening me, then we're gonna get in and he's gonna hit me, I'll get in a fight with you. But yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but it's just it's that verbal confidence of like, hey, don't like I'm not afraid of you, but we're not going to get into this at this point. But and by the way, my professor is barely 5 feet tall, under 100 pounds, and when he fights in the open weight division, he's actually known as a giant killer because he fights like these 6'4", 250 dudes, and he like embarrasses them. And it's like the funniest thing because so a lot of the big people don't want to fight him anymore because they don't want to become YouTube. Like they don't want to end up BJJ.
My professor, same. He's a smaller guy than me, and world champion.
Yeah.
So he's well, that's the whole thing about jiu-jitsu. It's leverage.
Yeah.
The small can overcome the bigger.
Well,
absolutely.
And that's kind of what
as long as you know what you're doing.
That's what I like about BJJ though, is that you could use it outside of the gym. You could use it like you could actually use it against people that know jiu-jitsu, and you can use it against people that don't know jiu-jitsu. Whereas I did kendo, Japanese sword fighting, and I can't fight anybody I couldn't fight people with a sword because it's so ritualized.
Yes.
That if you do something unusual, I don't have a response to it.
Yes.
Where in jiu-jitsu, if somebody does something crazy, you could probably handle it, right? You could at least like figure out what to do. That's what jiu-jitsu is all about. It's not formalized, and it's all about dealing with chaos.
Yeah. right?
Which was what I like. And you're talking
Which
about
is what I
patience.
like.
You're talking about patience. You're talking about waiting for them. Like,
Right.
like, yeah,
We're
like,
not doing sets.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
We're not, doing sets, right? That's not what we do. We roll.
Yeah.
We actually fight with people every fucking day.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
You're actually in a fight.
Yeah.
It's a real fight.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a tap out and, there's mercy and like that. But I mean,
although my friends who don't know about jujitsu, they always say, well, you can't hit. And I'm like, well, the difference is that in a real fight, I could hit you back. Like, if I'm on top of you, I can hit you back. So don't worry.
Right.
I'm not going to let you just hit me.
Yeah.
But I'll get you down. I'll be on top of you and you can't do anything.
And jujitsu's got an answer for hitting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah.
We know where to be and where not to be.
Yeah. And
to not get hit.
You can't hit me when you're on your back. So.
You can't. No.
Yeah.
And you're not going to hit me very hard if I'm real close to you.
Yeah.
If we're hugging it out, you ain't going to be able to get a good hit in.
Yeah.
No, but I can probably kill you.
Exactly.
I can choke you out and kill you.
Yeah.
But you can't hit me. We've got an answer for that.
What's the most
What's
the most important lesson you've learned on the mat?
Tap early, tap often. I'm an old man. The most important lesson I've learned on the mat, I ain't that tough. The most important lesson I've learned, I need to lose some weight and exercise more. That's
actually funny because I tell people one of the best things about jiu-jitsu is that it made me work out better.
Oh,
because when I'm on that, I'm like, I think about how some 25-year-old punk kicked crap out of me, and then I need to lift harder, I need to run more, just so that I'm like I could keep up with these kids. Because
I'm so lazy. Oh,
you're working out normally, you're just like, I don't have to run an extra mile, I don't have to lift, but when you have something to work out for, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna, like, if I can't be better, I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna be in better shape. I'm not gonna get tired.
There's nothing like a fight to motivate you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Men, I don't know. Some women are very motivated by fighting, but certainly men, nothing motivates you more than a fight. Jeez.
Well, but it's true. I mean, it's kind of like, I think in your Instagram, or I think it was Instagram, you're saying it, like sometimes to be a man, you have to just be a man. And I think there's value there. I mean, I think.
Yeah. I think that nowadays in the sort of the PC culture or whatever, there's this feeling of toxic masculinity, and certainly there is toxic masculinity, and we don't want to be that kind of man, but there is. Civilization was built on the backs of manhood, and there is something truthful, authentic, and valuable about being a man. And we're talking about the right kind of man.
Yeah, you don't have to be an asshole.
No. That's not a man.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't consider that a man.
Yeah.
That's a punk. Right? That's a bully. That's a well,
I think one of the things I learned from the mat is I think there's a brotherhood that I was missing before. Being on the mat, there's something about being on the mat, fighting other people, but mostly men, and just kind of feeling really close and kind of just working that anger and stuff out of me. Like, not that I was walking around being angry, but like, I don't.
No, I know.
I don't need to be in a fight because I fight on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you really, if we really want to, I guess, but I'm not gonna go out there and look for it, But it's that brotherhood, and I'm always shocked. One quick story: I rolled with this Asian American dude, and you feel close to these people, and then all of a sudden, one time he wrote something on my Facebook page that was like, something about Trump, and I was like, fuck, this is a Trump dude. and then I looked at his page and he's like a QAnon guy. And I just remember like, just because
a lot of martial artists
I know they are,
are kind of on that side of it.
but I kept thinking like, but because we're role, like I feel so close. And I just had to, I remember like, you just feel like this closeness, but then you realize you don't know these people, like they're just some total buddy else.
Well, there's a closeness on one level, right?
Yeah. Like a physical
You become
level.
close on a physical, intimate level. You've almost, I mean, if it was a different sex, right, it's like you've had sex with that person. I mean, it's intimate contact.
Yeah.
Well, come on. You've tried to kill each other.
Yeah, exactly.
You've tried to kill you've tried to break each other's arms.
Yeah.
Right? It's very intimate contact. And I think that is a kind of a closeness, especially with other men.
Yeah.
And it is a place where you can begin to bridge other differences, political differences.
Yeah.
I don't know, cultural, racial, whatever is going on. You bring it down to this simple physical interaction. And I mean, you're communicating with that person on an equal level, and you're going through a whole lot of emotions, and well, you're going through a whole lot of things, right, within that role. And I think that is a place where you can start to have dialogue with somebody.
Yeah.
And
well, to me, it's like, I was gonna say, a lot of bullies, they're physical. What I found with a lot of bullies is they're physical. And like, I've been in a situation, I used to be a bully, but I used to also fight bullies. And I knew a lot of times when I fight bullies, at the end, we're friends. And a lot of times the bullies, when they bully a kid and the kid backs away, that's when they keep bullying. It gets worse and worse and worse. But a lot of these kids, like, I think there's something in them where they just want this kind of physical, I don't know what it is. It's not contact, but like they need that physicalness is how they communicate. And a lot of times I think that's
interesting. That's how they're communicating.
That's how they're communicating.
In a physical way.
But then when somebody backs away, it's like, it's that something in them makes them want to do it more and worse. Whereas if you a lot of times if you just stand up, a lot of times that's like, oh.
I wonder, sometimes I wonder how a kid's relationship with their father or their parents affects that. If they're communicating through physical violence, what does that mean about how they're being communicated to by their parents, right? Does that mean that they're, it's possible that their parents smack them, and that's out of love, and so that's how they, that's how they're growing up, communicating certain things.
But I think that
through physical violence,
in terms of manhood, though, I think that's one of the issues now is that I think a lot of times, like I think like back in the day when we were, like, for example, we're growing up, or I was growing up, it's a lot of like, there's a lot of, tackle football. There's running around and kind of fighting and really kind of exploring that. And now it's like, I just worry. I think it's a lot of just, we're worried about everybody. We're worried about feelings a lot too much, and I just sometimes I think like you have to explore that, and not in a crazy, like, I don't want anybody to get bullied and want to kill themselves or something. But, but I think that there is value to being like it's like okay to tackle. Like, for example, in tackle football, I never saw a single kid that got hurt in tackle football because nobody's like an NFL player like tackling with their heads and driving them. You're just mostly just taking them down, right? Whereas I've seen kids get hurt in flag football because it's like or touch football, right? And then people are always fighting when two-hand touch because you're like, oh, you didn't touch me, oh, you touch, like, whereas when you're tackling, it's clear you're either down or you're not down, like there's no between though, but I think that we lack that kind of and then the other thing I was gonna say about manhood that I think is interesting is there's no ceremony, there's no like thing that you have to do that I wish there was, and I was like, okay, now you're a man, or And
I was just watching Lisa Ling, she's got a new show on CNN, This Is Life or whatever it is, and she went to a camp a summer camp up in the Santa Cruz Mountains where young boys are given this rite of passage experience. They do things out in the woods, you know, they make fires, and I don't know, they live out in the woods or something like that. And then, but you know, they do a ceremony, and it gives them a sense of passage.
Yeah.
And we really, you know, most older cultures have this.
Yeah.
This rite of passage, something that is formalized within the culture that is a rite of passage. And we don't really have that.
No.
And I found myself as a young man creating that for myself.
Yeah.
I kind of recognized in myself that one of the things that I was doing by working at a strip club, working at nightclubs as, you know, bouncers and stuff, and you know, kind of gravitating towards that side of things was to give myself a rite of passage. My father raised me by telling me stories of how he went to World War II when he was 18, 19 years old, and you know, he was in the Battle of the Bulge, and you know, he would put me to sleep by telling me how cold it was, and you know, and I mythologized my father, and I idolized him. He was a really good dad. And I realized that when I was young, around that same age, 19, 20, 21, I had been kicked out of high school and like that. I was kind of drifting, and I was kind of gravitating towards these, right, the bad side of town, right? And I think that one of the things that I was doing was I was trying to give myself a war.
Wow.
Right? I was trying to give myself this rite of passage, like I'm going to experience something gnarly, and right, and I'll have something to talk about when I'm an old man, which is what I'm doing. but yeah, that's right. And so, you know, I really did some negative things, and I kind of I damaged myself at that time looking for a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And not having a safe place to get that.
Yeah, that's basically my 20s too. My 20s was
see, right?
That's why I've come to think of this more lately, but I really think that our country would be a lot better if we made everybody go to do service for 2 years.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I kind of agree.
It's hard to hate somebody from West Virginia if we're like not literally, like if we're training together, if we're, you know,
if you're vice versa together. Yeah.
They can't call me a libtard if we're on the, you know, we're marching together all day.
And you've got a commonality that everybody in the country has a commonality of experience. Oh yeah, I went through that. Oh, I remember my basic. Yeah. You know, people in Israel have that, right? People in, right?
Other
right.
places.
Yeah. And you have this commonality of experience. That commonality of experience is something that I regret in the downfall of the American public school system. Yeah. You know, it's in shatters right now. American public school system is, it's non-functional almost for the most part. Yeah. You know, and that's really sad, because I think that we can really bring a country together when we educate everybody together.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that. But
dinosaurs didn't exist, and global warming is not real, and you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like, science isn't real. Well, yeah. When I went to school, I had to take a fucking class, and I had to get a grade in that. It's called science. Yeah. It's how we, you know.
All right. Well,
it's not, you know.
Well, thank you, Kelvin, for coming on. It's been great. This has been one of the better episodes that we've had. So I appreciate.
Oh no, thank you, brother. You know, thank you so much. Again, I really value this experience, and my love to you and your son.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. Please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast, and please take a listen to some of the other podcasts, The Best or the Worst. and the Midnight Watchers. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.